On September 11, 2001, Al-Qaeda carried out the deadliest terror attacks on America in the nation's history, killing nearly 3,000 people and injuring thousands more. It was a day that New Yorkers, Americans, and the world would never forget.
I was on the phone with him when the plane hit. When the plane hit, we were speaking at that moment, and he was telling me that they were telling him to hold back, that he was taking care of the people and they were coming for him. And as we were speaking, I looked up and I saw the plane hit and the phone went dead. And that apparently was it.
Today, as the 20th anniversary of the attacks approaches, the memories are still very vivid for many Bronxites.
When I got at the train station, like the 9/11 was already taking place. One building was already on fire. So once I got to the office, they evacuated us, and me and my coworker basically walked down to like Canal Street and literally seen like it fall.
When you got home, the TVs and things wasn't working properly. So you had to wait till the afternoon, everything come back on. And you saw what you saw, people's running, all the dust, some people falling out the buildings. And it was just terrible. Something you'll never forget.
I was in high school at that time. I had to walk home, actually, from 14th Street. I had to walk home. Yeah, it was smoke everywhere. It was like the whole Midtown was flooded with smoke. It was horrible, the worst experience.
I was in elementary school, so all I remember was my mom just racing, coming to pick me up because there was just a crowd of just families, parents just picking up their kids that day.
I was in 7th grade and we were just sitting in the classroom, and then it just went silent for a few hours. They didn't tell us anything. We were just sitting there, and then eventually they did tell us at the end of the day what had happened.
We lost 343 firefighters on 9/11. The anniversary is a day where we remember how brave all first responders were.
Guys, in the aftermath, where did you find consolation?
I was going to say consolation with our families and really our fellow firefighters. You know, that understand we're all in the same boat. We understand, you know, what has occurred, and we've all gone through the same emotions and experience, you know, in the last month. And I was saying earlier today that it's difficult to relate right now to people on the outside of the job. You know, they don't really realize what has occurred.
My first day of vacation, so you'll see me walking the kids to school every day. I walk back to my house. My wife is on the phone with her mom. TV's on in the bedroom. I walked into the bedroom. I saw the tower on fire, and I said, "Well, that's not a little plane. That's something big that hit that." And I walked to where she was standing, and I said, "Look, I'm leaving. I'm not sure when I'm coming back. We just lost a whole bunch of firefighters, and I don't know when I'm coming home."
And for many, it doesn't feel like 20 years have passed.
It feels like yesterday, too. I realize it's 20 years, but I do believe, myself personally, I would never forget what happened. It was a very, very sad day.
It don't feel like it. When you think about something like yesterday, you know, it was so terrible. Now they build it over, and it's nice, but people still gonna remember, okay? They're not gonna forget this. No, they're not gonna forget this. I don't blame them.
It brought us all together, you know what I mean? We had to, you know, devote, you know, be neighbors to each other, you know, like build each other up.
We have to tell that generation, because that's part of who we are, I think, collectively as the United States society. We're all good people.
Wow, 20 years ago. It was a beautiful day. Beautiful Tuesday, primary day. I'm involved with the union. We were supporting El Jefe, Freddie Farrar for mayor, and I had to vote. 7 o'clock in the morning, I signed on to the ambulance, and I had to vote. So the first thing we did was drove my ambulance to my voting site, and I voted. We got our first job that day in a homeless shelter for a man that needed an ambulance. And on the way to St. Barnabas Hospitals, when we heard the first plane hit into the World Trade Center. And being an EMT, paramedic, firefighter, a cop, it's a special kind of person to do that kind of job. So, you're an adrenaline junkie. You want those good jobs. So when we first heard the first plane hit, I called our dispatcher, and she says, Joe, I'll send you down there. So we dropped off our patient at St. Barnabas, and we started heading down to the World Trade Center. Halfway down there, we heard the second plane hit. And we actually thought about not going, crashing our ambulance into a wall. Why? Because they started talking about terrorism. None of us had ever experienced terrorism before, let alone training in our training as EMTs and paramedics. But that was a fleeting moment. We continued on downtown. And one thing that I remember vividly is going down the West Side Highway and seeing thousands and thousands of people running away, and the only people that you see going towards the towers were the EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, cops, mostly civil servants, union members, going towards the towers. Arriving there at the base of the towers in front of the Marriott, we set up a command post. And the first thing you do at a command post or a high profile job is you look for the highest ranking fire department official. And that was Chief Charlie Wells. We found him. First thing out of his mouth was, put on your helmets. Don't look up. And we were like, don't look up? So the first thing we do is look up. And that image will haunt me even till today, 20 years later, seeing people jump off the building. Can't even fathom what they were thinking about jumping 90, 100, 110 stories off a building. Shook that off. Charlie Wells grabbed my partner, Billy, and I, and we entered the Marriott. And right when we were entering the Marriott, unbeknownst to us, because we weren't, even though we were physically there, people on TV were getting second by second, minute by minute updates, not like the people on the ground. So, as I was entering the Marriott, I heard this loud, roaring freight train noise and looked up and just thought another plane had hit the building. My chief screams out, run. I run into the Marriott. Him and Billy run back across the street. Next thing you know, I'm buried alive inside the vestibule of the Marriott. All I could do is pray and scream out. A couple seconds later, pitch silence, pitch black, total silence, and then you start hearing these beeping sounds. And it was the passive sounds of firefighters not moving because of their oxygen tanks. And that's one thing the firefighters have, is this passive sound alarm. When they don't move, their co-workers can find them, locate them. And you just kept hearing this doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Didn't know what happened, couldn't see anything. I could hear a few voices. And literally 15, 20 minutes later, I'm with a lighter trying to see my way out, and literally had to climb out of this pile because the wall had collapsed into the street. And once I got out into the street, it was a ghost town. There was nobody there. I was screaming out for my partner, Billy, screaming out, nothing. I wandered into, it was so dark. I walked into a light pole. That's how dark it was. I found my way into a grocery store just to clean my face from all the dust and debris. And people were trickling in, bloodied, hurt. I made one phone call. And that was to my mother. And she was yelling and screaming at me, get out of there, we're under attack, get out. get out. And all I could do was respond to her was like, I have to find my partner, Billy. I have to find Billy. And that was it. You couldn't make no more cell phone calls after that. The cell phone towers had went down. And after searching for a while, I did find Billy. He was blown under a truck with a broken leg, broken collarbone, some cracked ribs. I found him, and we started walking towards the South Street Seaport. That's when all these little boats were coming over from Jersey. I put him on the boat. I didn't get on the boat because I physically wasn't hurt. We helped a firefighter get on the boat with a broken back. A couple of my colleagues were there. They got on the boat. Then the second collapse came, and the boat left. And I'm screaming, wait. So I spent the next few minutes dangling over the sidewall, about to jump into the river. The cloud and dust subsided, and I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next? I found the Parks Department gator. I hot rodded it, and I was gonna drive it back to the Bronx, because you couldn't drive anything down there. You couldn't drive a car, an ambulance, let alone anything. My ambulance was destroyed. So what I ended up doing was taking this Parks Department gator and transporting people for the next, 12, 18 hours that were hurt to these ferries and boats that were coming over. I ended up going home the next morning. My then fiance, my now wife Samantha, was waiting up for me, and all I could do was cry. I had survivor's guilt. Why was I still alive and so many other people dead? Literally, if you ran left, you lived. If you ran right, you died. And looking back at this day that will live in infamy, 20 years later, I can just, count my blessings. Yes, I've been diagnosed with liver and pancreatic cancer due to the 9/11 exposures that I had that day, but I'm in remission. I count every day as a blessing, and I just want people, anniversary, I don't like the word anniversary. I like the word remembrance, never forget. And I want people to just remember that there are still people today that are suffering, and to, remember the sacrifice that, not only first responders, but civilians made that day. And, we keep them in our hearts and our prayers.
BronxNet would like to remember the innocent people who boarded planes that day, individuals working in the World Trade Center towers and the Pentagon, the first responders who perished responding to the attacks, as well as all volunteers who took part in the recovery effort.